Hello and welcome to the Managing Madrid podcast. It is Thursday, just after 6 p.m. CET. You guys are absolutely crazy. This is a live call. I don't even think we got this when we won the Champions League. Now, all of a sudden, you get some news that Mbappe is pretending to join Real Madrid, and everyone wants to know. Everyone wants to join the live call. There's so many people here. Welcome. Uh, welcome, guys. It's been a hell of a day. I wasn't entirely sure what we were going to talk about today. I had some things lined up, but then like 30 minutes before we were recording, Fabrizio Romano reported that Kylian Mbappe is leaving PSG or has told Nasser Al-Khalifi that he is leaving PSG. Then Ornstein jumped on it. Mario Cortagena jumped on it. And it just went from this like, oh, it's just going to be this forever transfer rumor that will never end to like, oh, if he's leaving, is there a 180 here? I don't know. I've seen so many 180s in this story that even if he's like on the day of signing for Real Madrid, there's like a picture of him and Florentino. He's signing the paper. I just expect there to be a 180. All of a sudden, the president of France with the entourage of all of Qatar is going to fly down in a helicopter in Valdebebas and hijack the press conference. They're going to take the pen out of his hand, replace it with some gold bars. I'm still skeptical, but we can talk about it. Oh, there's even questions lined up. I'll go through a couple quick things before we get into it. And to be quite honest, I don't know what else to say about this. I don't know. We've already said everything to say about it every day for the past 3 years. We just put maybe a little spin on it every time. But what else are we going to say in terms of where he fits? How does he fit? How real is this? You know, the salary structure. It's all the same things every day. So I don't know if there's actually going to be anything new to talk about today in that sense, but we'll see. Quickly, because I was actually expecting to do this completely solo today and just talk for like 30 minutes. Now that's changed. I want to kind of make this a little bit more interactive. My cousin today sent me a report, and I don't like reporting on Davies every day because I don't like to be that guy who just says the same thing every day. But my cousin sent me a report on it was a tweet from one of these big Madrid aggregator accounts quoting Relevo as their source that Davies is a done deal. And I didn't really I don't even know if I would have seen it otherwise because I don't read Relevo and I don't follow any aggregator accounts either. I think I've muted most of them, but it came across to me and I was like, okay, well, this is a good opportunity to at least give my latest report on Davies and what I know. And I think it's more real than it was before, just in the sense that there has been contact from Real Madrid to Davies' camp, inquiring about what would it take, what are the numbers, what would it take to outbid Bayern, etc. It's real in that sense, but it's far from a concluded deal the way Relevo reported it as like a done deal. It's already agreed on. It's not even close to being agreed. They haven't even had real conversations in that sense. But what makes this picture interesting is that Bayern are shockingly a mess behind the scenes. And I wouldn't necessarily know otherwise on what's happening under the new ownership, apart from what I've heard, in that these guys just don't have it together at all. They're not even talking about they're not even talking to Davies for whatever reason. I don't know what's going on there. They've had some preliminary conversations, but if I was them, I would just lock that up as a priority, but they haven't even explored that conversation. So I think what actually paves the path here is possibly just that Bayern are a mess. That's the only reason why. If the old board was still at Bayern, Davies would have re-signed probably last year. Like the contract would have been done. I have other concerns apart from my own Canadian bias. I will also say that I'm concerned a little bit in that. Well, first of all, I don't know what happens with Mehedi and Fran Garcia. If you really want to keep Mehedi, who is probably the more valuable of the two, then you're having a situation where you have Fran Garcia and Davies, who are two fullbacks who are not great defensively. Mehedi at least contrasts Alphonso Davies in that situation. I'm also worried that Davies hasn't really showed that much progression in the last few years. So I think he needs to up his level if he comes to Real Madrid. So that's all I want to say. No, there's no done deal hasn't been reported, but there has been some preliminary contact rather. Uh, okay, so we're gonna bring in questions. I have to be a little bit ruthless today. I apologize in that if there are repetitive questions, I will I will probably just skip to the next person, and or if it's something that we've talked about endlessly in the past few days, like because we've done so many podcasts, I may refer you to those podcasts as well. I would ask you also please to keep your questions concise as possible, and just so we can keep it fast paced, if we can. Okay. All right. Oh wow, the chat is firing off underway too. There's so many messages in the chat. All right. We're gonna bring in Yusuf Sayed. Yusuf, are you there? Unmute, please, Yusuf.
Hello, hi Kiyan.
Hello. How you doing?
How are you doing? I'm good, I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks. What's up?
Yeah, initially I wasn't keen on joining the call right away. Like I was gonna take some time and then I saw the Mbappe news and like the like everybody, like I, rushed to the call. Even though we have so extensively spoken about this for the last few months, even in one of the live calls, I've shared my thoughts with you and so on and so forth. I'm not really sure what my question would be, apart from maybe like just reiterating the same thing that's been asked to you in the past and you may have discussed, but now that it's even more realistic, how do you see him impact the locker room? Because I mean, on one hand, we have seen his, social media post and even Vinicius and Rodrigo and all of that, like hanging out, having that friendly vibe. But then definitely like seeing how Brahim has been performing out of his mind, and there is Rodrigo, there is Vinicius, there's Arda Güler, there is, Endrick coming in, and now a very, very high chance of Mbappe also joining us. So, you know, like I'd never expected Brahim to be somebody who would take such a huge place in our team, like where we would actually be contemplating him, his value in our starting 11. But he seems to be so special, like one of the few people who can shoot from both his feet and dribble so closely, be so quick, and like that's a very unique skill set. Like Rodrigo has that, but then Rodrigo has that inconsistency. But with the current form of Brahim, he seems so confident, so ballsy. So my question is like, would it hurt? Would it hurt us if Mbappe comes and we have to leave? Let one of these stars go, and like, would we miss them? Or is the trade-off so worth it? Like,
Got it. Thanks, Yusuf. Okay, so I think in the end you have incredible depth. You went from not having you went from losing Benzema and having no one to play in attack, basically, apart from Vinny, and then kind of unexpectedly Jude going to a different gear offensively this season, to now an abundance in options. So let's go like the Mourinho rule of 2 players per position. So you have 3 positions in attack. You have 6 players. Vinny, in no particular order. Vinny, Mbappe, Endrick, Rodrigo, Jude, Brahim. If we go by that rule, did I miss anyone? Tell me really quickly in the chat if I missed anyone, apart from Joselu, which I excluded.
Arda.
Yeah, Arda. So let's table Arda for a sec. I think it'll be, as for sentimental reasons, I'd love to bring Joselu back. I just don't know what you tell him in that situation, because it's just really hard to give him playing time, because you have Endrick coming too, who needs to play. Unless it's a very, very specific scenario where you need an aerial threat and you're going against a low block and you just want to hang on to Joselu's very unique profile for a specific in-game situations, but don't promise them anything beyond that. That's a conversation you can have with them. I think it's probably overkill to have that. Yeah, a couple people in the chat, Gal and Mahmoud, said that you can put Jude in midfield. Yeah, of course, that's an option. You assume Modric will leave, and that frees up a spot. But Modric is not a starter this year, so you're not freeing a starting role up. If you put Jude in midfield, you kind of have that problem there as well, because Fede is untouchable, and Kroos, if he stays, he's untouchable. And that means Jude, Kroos, and Fede, which that means you excluded DM. So I don't see that as a necessarily logical option too. So everyone's saying Jude dropping to midfield makes more sense in a world where Kroos retires to me. Because if Kroos plays at this level, I'm not benching him. No way in hell. And if you don't bench Kroos, Fede, or Jude, that means you're going to have to figure out who's playing DM. And benching Tchouaméni and Camavinga both is crazy. So maybe I'm overthinking it, but I think these are real conversations to have, because the dominoes of Mbappe's arrival affect the midfield if you're going to push Jude deeper. I would say, based on just on paper, very early thoughts, talking about a player who has not even officially joined us. This is crazy. But just giving the people what they want. It's got our best sixes, and I mentioned this to Angelo a couple of weeks ago. Probably Jude, Vinny, Mbappe, Tchouaméni, or Camavinga, Kroos, and Fede. So, anyways, just to simplify a little bit, that and people are mentioning Arda in the chat. I don't necessarily know where Arda fits in all this. In that it's going to be hard for him to break through. Maybe his saving grace is that he can play sometimes the 10. He can play on the right wing. Maybe he can play in a deeper right central midfielder role as a deeper look too. But it's going to be hard for him to break through, I think. Yeah. With regards to Brahim and Rodrigo and how happy they'd be, well, look, you need depth. And if anything has taught us, if this season has taught us anything, it's that you need players, man. You need to go at least 2 deep in every position. You're going to have a ton of games where people can't play. You're going to have a ton of games where people are suspended or injured. God forbid, long-term injuries, which we've had a million of this season. You need players. You need depth. So this whole idea of people are going to be happy or unhappy with playing time is something I think maybe you deal with in a couple years when contracts start running low and Rodrigo's like, I want to play. Brahim's like, I want to play. It's not necessarily an immediate problem with regards to juggling the roster. And admittedly, this is why it's so hard to build rosters, is that you can't keep everybody happy on a long-term basis. This is why the most difficult thing to do is to win. And on top of that, the most difficult thing to do after that is sustain winning. Because if you win, it means you probably have a good bench. And if you keep winning, it means those good bench players will want to go play somewhere else. And that's why it's hard to keep a team intact for a long-term, on a long-term basis. So it's going to be a challenge. I don't think it's an immediate challenge, but it's going to be a challenge. This idea of, will people be happy, is in a theoretical world where everyone's healthy all the time. And that's just not the case. I think maybe we've seen it with Modric this year, though. Obviously, with him, we've had enough bodies in midfield and he's been the odd man out. All right, we're going to move on to Pancho Mike. Pancho, what's up?
Hey, Kiyan, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hey, guys. So my question is, we've had some recent success in games in part due to players playing out of position and doing either sufficient or a good job. If you had to pick one reason why, is this due to perhaps some training to make it fit? Is this just due to signing top talent, or is it just plain luck?
Sorry, I missed the first part of the question because I was typing something. Can you go through it again?
Yeah, sure thing. So we've had some success in the games in part due to players playing out of position.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they're either doing a sufficient job or even a great job. And I just wanted to know, is this due to training that they're doing before the games? Is this due to just signing the top talent, or just plain luck for us?
Yeah, I think it actually comes way before training, and it comes with the profile of players that they're signing. Is that everyone we've signed fits a certain description in the scouting report, that is, this player can play in multiple positions. And this is what a lot of people say, is the future of football. It's this versatility. It's this two-way ability. It's this ability to play in multiple positions and do everything. And the specific specialists in football is becoming more and more rare. Like, I think there are specialists, of course, like Haaland is a specialist. Vinicius is a specialist in that he is a left winger who goes at players and creates. But they're also so good at that one particular trait, it doesn't necessarily matter. But I think with Tchouaméni's case, Camavinga's case, Fede Valverde's case, obviously it goes way back to when he was with Castilla and we scouted him much, much earlier, is that when we scout these players, they're very versatile in their scouting profile. They're also more mature than their age shows. So I think it kind of goes beyond training, but also obviously within training too. They obviously work on things like Tchouaméni and Camavinga, when they signed for Real Madrid, they didn't expect their versatility to take them to center back and left back. That stuff obviously they work on in training, but their profile fits it. Yeah, I think so. I think it's a bit of both, but probably starts with the scouting report initially.
I know that a large portion hates talking about basketball as well, but would you say it's the same as like two-way players in a way, and that you only get the superstar if they're a dominant presence?
Yeah, this is the 2019-2020 Toronto Raptors model, where all 5 players on the court can defend the wing, can shoot threes, and they can score and defend and guard 4 to 5 positions. So it's kind of the same model. Yeah, but I think it works. Obviously, football, it's different because you have 11 players on the field, so it's a little bit different in that sense. But I think you have a nucleus of players who can definitely do everything, a bit of everything.
Great, thanks, Kiyan. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Mike. Appreciate you. Gaurav, are you there? Gaurav, you have to unmute if you're there. All right, we're going to move to Patrick Wilson. We'll come back to Gaurav. Patrick, you there?
Yeah, Kiyan, how are you doing?
Hey, man, good. How are you?
Doing well. Happy, gosh, is it Thursday? Time's flying. Happy Thursday to everyone on the call.
I thought you were going to say Happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, geez. No. I know it's not that. I know that's already passed. Couldn't remember if it was Wednesday or Friday. Days are bleeding together. Yeah, really quickly on what Mike said, that was my biggest takeaway from the last 2 matches with the injuries we've had and the suspensions we've had. I mean, obviously, Leipzig was not as pretty as the game against Girona was, but being able to see that spine and nucleus of Tchouaméni, Camavinga, and Valverde, really seeing the recruitment process over the last 5 years when you have an injury crisis like that really pays off. I mean, to be able to put in above average to elite performances out of position and really just be able to tighten up the middle of the park to where you spread them outside and to be able to really just play consistent defense. I really feel like that was something we were missing towards the end of last year when Tchouaméni wasn't playing. We just missed that physicality right in the middle of the park. And to be able to see him recover his form from last year and for them to be able to put in the performances that they have, it's been astounding to see, whether it's a 4-0 match at home or we squeak away with a 1-0 victory away from home. Just being able to get the job done no matter what, that really speaks to the mentality of this squad, regardless of what we need or where we're injured at. So, I just wanted to, that was my main takeaway from these last 2 matches going into, as we get further into the business end of the season. Pivoting to kind of what we were talking about, Alphonso Davies, real quick, because I agree with what you said. In the last 12 months, he has not shown the same. I don't know whether you call it plateau. I don't know if he's had injuries. I haven't been watching Bayern very regularly. What would you say is the threshold? Whether it's the amount we would have to pay for him versus someone that keeps popping up. Whether it's rumors, reports in a defender like Lenny Yoro, who, again, I haven't seen much on him, but from the clips I've seen from him, he seems very versatile. And what I've read is that a big reason the club likes him, aside from his age and athleticism, but that he can play as a fullback or a center back. Where do you think the threshold is as we talk, as we continue talking about, hey, do you get away from the specialists and you obtain these players? And when you think about cycling them out, like someone like Nacho, who he's coming toward, whether he leaves this year or he's got a year or two left, where he's the Swiss Army knife across that back line. Where do you think the threshold is versus someone who plays a left back like Davies versus someone who's a little unproven but maybe more young and versatile like Lenny Yoro?
Well, funny enough, Davies, if you watch him play with Canada, he is the most versatile player ever. Like, he is literally Di Stefano. He plays right wing, he can play striker, he can play left wing, he can play the 10, the CM, the DM. It's crazy. I mean, if we're talking about versatility, Davies actually fits that bill. With regards to his, like, what would it take for numbers? I've never asked, like, what would his salary be. I've never asked his agent that. And from what I understand, I don't think with Davies it's a matter of money that much. He loves Bayern because Bayern are the only team who looked at a kid from Canada and was like, "You're starting for us." Out of all teams, Bayern Munich, right? I mean, Barcelona contacted him and were like, "We'll put you in La Masia, and if you're good, you can rise." Well, Bayern on the flip side was like, "No, forget that. You're starting for us." And that was like, he was blown away. And so he is forever indebted to them for that reason. And the new owners coming in and cleaning the slate and erasing that history that he had with them is like, it sucks for him. Like, it hurts, And so if Bayern might mess this up and fumble his contract, and that's what's potentially leaving the path to Real Madrid, as I said. But if you're asking me, like, who would I prioritize more in terms of Yoro and Davies, and coming from the most biased Canadian ever, I kind of would lean towards Yoro because we have Mendy and Fran Garcia. And of course, we have concerns with them. Mendy's health and his ability to stay fit and stay within rhythm, and Fran Garcia still being very raw. But between those two and Miguel being an arm's length away to bring back if we wanted to, it's not as urgent as a need as a center back, if you ask me. Like, we have concerns with Nacho, we have health crises, we need depth there. So somebody like Yoro, from an urgency standpoint, to me is more priority. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, I don't really have anything else on Davies, but I guess I have similar concerns in that sense. But he is versatile, to give him credit.
Hearing that loyalty too, in the way he probably is a crisis of the heart for him, so to speak, where he has this opportunity but wants to pay back the loyalty. That makes you want that type of player even more. That's a very true shout.
That's true. Yeah, but he has stagnated a bit, like you said, or plateaued. And I think he does need to, like, if we're being honest, he needs to play better than he is currently playing with Bayern right now. Maybe he needs a change of scenery. I don't know, but he needs to up his game a little bit, if you ask me.
It's tough to put that so much on the player, even though it is fact, it is reality. But you just look at what's happened under Thomas Tuchel with Bayern Munich. I mean, players like Joshua Kimmich, Goretzka. I mean, he's not the only one, I think, who may have suffered. But to be fair, on the other side of it, Harry Kane's been having a great year, aside from his rut in form the last couple games. But I don't think that would play too much of it. But I think I would agree with you, especially if Lenny Yoro can cover on the right back side if needed.
Yeah.
The last one I have is talking about Brahim Diaz. I mean, just what a spectacular performance he put in. Every time he's asked to step up when someone's out, he seems to deliver. From what I've seen watching, aside from very few points in a match, but not over the course of 90 minutes, we have yet to see Vinny, Jude, and Rodrigo really all click together over the course of 90 minutes. There have been spurts where they do, but it always seems to be one of the three or two of the three. Do you feel Brahim has done enough to get a run in the starting 11 in the last 4 to 6 weeks if everybody in the attack is healthy?
Based on merit, yes. I also think what you said about like you don't always necessarily get all three attackers performing at a high level every game. I think part of that is because you'll just notice more the players who are ball dominant, and Vinicius is our most ball dominant winger we have, right? So if he's on the field, he's going to be the one that's used the most. And any surrounding pieces are mostly there to take advantage of space, that the gravity he pulls in. So if Vinicius is pulled with Rodrigo, you'll see Vinicius more on the ball, and Rodrigo maybe getting into goal scoring positions in that sense. So and then from there you have to see how much is actually created and how effective Rodrigo can be in that role, because he is, to me, like a little bit like Bale was, in that the more he has the ball, the better he is, the more involved he is. And sometimes when he doesn't appear on the ball as much, he can drift in and out of games. But he works really hard defensively. And against Leipzig, where I thought he didn't play that well, it's not that he played bad, but he wasn't as effective as like a Brahim, for example. He was working really hard defensively, and I appreciated that. And I think that really matters too. But but yeah. So what was that question you had? Brahim's playing time.
Exactly. Yeah. If everybody's healthy and everything's even based on form, based on merit. I mean, I think we all know Carlo Ancelotti at this point enough. We've seen enough to where he I won't call it favorites, but he has his fixed 11 if everybody's healthy. Do you think he's done enough in the time he's been given, in the minutes he's been given, to warrant a start in a big match, if everybody's healthy?
I think he has. And I also think Ancelotti, to be fair to him, has changed his starting 11. Look, I mean, Lunin is the latest example. He went from this guy who was behind Kepa to equal terms with him, and then all of a sudden Ancelotti just trusts him more now. So I think Ancelotti's trust level can change based on what he sees, to be fair. But I also think he really, really trusts Rodrigo, and rightfully so. But I would try to squeeze in Brahim into the starting lineup if I could, based on merit. This conversation doesn't really matters the most, I think, if you're going into a big game. But Brahim is also so good off the bench that either way, you're going to get the best out of him. But yeah, I think based on merit, he has earned a starting role, if you ask me. Patrick, we got to move on, okay?
Yeah, sounds good. Appreciate it,
All
Kiyan.
right. Always appreciate you tuning in. Thank you, Patrick. All right, next up, we got Sheikh Hatiri. What's up?
Hey, how's it going, Kiyan?
Good, how are you?
Doing well. How's your knee?
Better. I went for a run.
Good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I went for a run. And it didn't
Okay,
hurt.
good.
So I'm going to start playing again. Yeah, thanks for asking.
Okay, so no ACL tear.
I didn't check it, but I'm assuming
Okay.
not, because I was running on it.
But you're a Madridista. We just assume that it's an ACL tear?
Yeah. I definitely, when the night it happened, I was like, this season is cursed. We're all getting ACL tears.
Well, I'm glad that you're doing better, though.
Thank you.
So, let me make a very quick point. Hey, Mehedi.
Yeah, Mehedi, I just added you to the spotlight because I noticed you were here. I don't know if you mind or not.
Hey, Kiyan. Yeah. Hey.
Hey, I want to make a very quick point about Mbappe that I made right 2 years ago almost, when he rejected us. So it's not that he's coming, so I'm trying to cope. You are, I think, son of immigrants. I'm an immigrant, and Canada and the United States are not even nearly as bad as France. I said at the time that, setting the smirk aside, the kid is an African immigrant to France. And when the president of the country calls you and you've grown up in that country, thinking, I'm not really French, being told at school I'm not really French, having faced a lot of such things, and the president of the country calls you and says, hey, you're a national treasure, please stay. Can you really blame the guy? We've made this a lot about money, and I'm sure money played a role, but is it just that? I think that we should cut him some slack, that when Macron calls the kid and says, you're as French as anyone, in fact, you're the most important French person in the world, it has an effect. So now, if he's actually coming, I think we should keep that in mind.
I agree, but I think the perspective of, wow, he's you know, let me put it this way. If you're someone who has no dog in the fight, you're not a Madridista, you're not a PSG supporter, you're not an Mbappe supporter, maybe you're not even a football fan. It could be a different sport. If you just heard someone turn down a big club for an unheard of amount of money, you'd be like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Like that's what but the Madridista perspective is much different because here you have someone who you feel has played you, has led you on, and in the end did a U-turn on you because he got offered money, so now he's a mercenary. So I think both perspectives are fair. It just depends on what your perspective is. I think in a vacuum, if we're taking complete emotion out of it and thinking about someone who is doing in a career, whether he's an accountant, a lawyer, a doctor, or an athlete, taking the path of most money is something that most people would probably do, and you can't really blame him for that. That just reminds me, Shay, I don't even think I answered the first question. I think it was Yusuf who asked it, like, do you think Mbappe would be a problem in the locker room? I don't think he would be. Like, he's best friends with half the team. I don't really know. Like, I can't assume that he would just be a problem. Is I guess the way I would see it. You know, I think it'll be fine. I don't see why it would be a huge problem. I could be proven wrong, but I also don't want to assume that it would be a problem. Like, he's best friends with half the team. From a tactical perspective, I think he'll mesh well, and I think the team will thrive. That's my prediction.
And if I may add something to what you said, he hasn't really been the problem in France national team locker room. Others like Giroud have been more of a problem, and Griezmann with Benzema especially. In PSG, to the extent that he's been a problem, like that the club doesn't is a mess.
There seemed to have been some stuff between him and Benzema, but I don't really know. Like, I don't like those two when they were playing together for a very brief period of time in the French national team in the Nations League were unstoppable. I just remember that. But
yeah,
you know, after I feel like Mbappe's decision in 2022 and Benzema's Instagram story post, remember that? I feel like something happened there, but I'm not entirely sure.
But then you have the Real Madrid one that we have had the 2000s locker room, and we had the Mourinho era locker room, and it's not a coincidence that our locker room is so good right now. I think management really plays a role in keeping it like it is. It's not just Carlo. Even under Zidane, it was pretty good, and I think more than Mbappe disrupting it, it's such a strong institutional culture and management that he's going to fit into the locker room culture that we have than changing it.
Yeah, I completely agree with Shay on that, because I think we underrate the values of Real Madrid in this sense a bit. Because if it were another club, yeah, like one person like Mbappe, even if he wanted to, he wanted his best, I don't think he could, disrupt the harmony of this team just like that. Like, Real Madrid right now is too strong for that.
Guys, breaking news. We have to stop the call. It was a waste of time. We got our hopes up for nothing.
Oh my god.
Jota Jordi has confirmed Barcelona are inquiring about Mbappe. Devastating.
Oh man.
He's gonna I don't know if Mbappe is gonna disrupt Real Madrid's harmony or not. I can this clip will go on the internet. I will be on record saying this, that the first time Mbappe faces Barcelona, if he signs for Real Madrid, he will destroy that club like that club has never been destroyed before.
I'm curious, actually, is there anyone in the chat? Because I feel like this type of person that I'm about to ask if they're in the chat is less prolific than it was. I don't know if it's because time heals wounds or what, but is there anyone here on the call? And I don't judge you. I'm not calling you out per se. I'm just curious. Is there anyone on this call who is still in the fuck this guy camp? Fuck Mbappe. I don't want him. Just to put like a number 1 in the chat. You don't have to. Okay, we got one, Gal, Ramkey, HM, beautiful. But like, so I'm curious now if he does come in, MK, if he does come in and just hits the ground running, the team thrives. He puts 3 goals past Barca. Are you gonna be in that camp still? Are you gonna be like, oh, okay, oh, fine, this was okay, or are you just gonna hate him forever?
Also, Le Parisien just reported that Mbappe has chosen Real Madrid.
So weird that we're like talking about this happening like after all these years, right? I mean, we're not there yet.
Yeah, and it's not beyond that you'll host emergency Mbappe rejection podcast at the end of the season again.
I know that. I know it's not. That's completely conceivable still to me after all this. I'm not kidding. It's totally conceivable to me, because don't you think this is a realistic scenario? He's told Al Khalifi he's leaving. Meanwhile, he's not signing a deal with Real Madrid until June, July. We forgot that he told Al Khalifi to leave. And then Al Khalifi, all of a sudden, it was like a whole ploy to get a better contract. And all of a sudden, he's just there, signing a contract.
I think, I don't know if this has been discussed, like stop me if this has been discussed already so far in the call. I think one report was pretty extensive in which it said that obviously not all the things have been agreed between all parties like PSG and Mbappe. And one possibility is that Mbappe doesn't take a signing bonus from Real Madrid, and PSG basically signs it for another year, and Real Madrid pays some money to PSG, like all sorts of that kind of stuff. So there is like a lot still to happen. I understand, and especially the kind of sample size that we still have. I think this is the closest he's probably been to signing for Real Madrid since 2022. The other times it was more skeptical anyways, but yeah, I think since 2022 this is probably the closest that he is.
Sorry, Kiyan, go.
I'll be quick. Arantxa just texted me. She said he's coming. If Arantxa says anything, I believe her. No, she said I think he's coming. I think. Don't put that on record and start showing me the text. Yeah, I'll show you the text. How can I do it so that it erases the rest of our conversation? Okay, here. Can you see this? It's kind of bright. Is it too bright?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
You might want to turn down the brightness.
Does that work?
Yeah,
you
now
see that?
you can see it.
Yeah. This is gonna be this. Oh, yeah, this is gonna be shared.
It's happening. I think so. It's coming finally.
Sorry, Shay, I cut you off.
No. I was going to say there's a dream scenario that I still hold, which is we do a 2003 reverse. That last second Mbappe goes to Barca, we get Haaland instead, and Barca goes broke, and Mbappe fades because every superstar dies at Barca, and he becomes a mediocre player. We get they go broke and they dissolve because Mbappe bankrupts them. I can live with that too.
It's such a weird. I don't know how you come up with these scenarios, bro.
Hey, I've got a question actually about the last game. I wanted to ask you. We've blamed Nacho a lot for the last game, and don't get me wrong, I think he deserves it, but I think it's actually a shirt blame with Mehedi. If you go back and watch the highlights, like I did, a lot of the defensive problems we had from that side was not Nacho alone, but it's just that one of the midfielders was breaking defensive lines to go press the opponent, which is normal. But then Mehedi and Nacho just had no chemistry. Who should fill in for the midfielder who went to press?
Yeah,
there's zero chemistry between the two. So I think it was a shared blame, more on Nacho than Mehedi, but it's both. And relatedly, you mentioned that Fran has not. You mentioned that Fran is still too raw. One, I think he's been quite good the past few, very few games that he's played for us in the past few months. He's been quite good. And two, how do you stop being raw if you're not going to ever play? So, is it time to actually start playing? He's going to have to play on this Carlos Camavinga against Rayo because Mendy is suspended. But uh, what should we do about the left back situation for just the rest of the season? I'm asking.
Sorry, I blacked out for a second because PSG confirmed Mbappe's departure. But I don't.
Wow.
Like officially?
But
like in a...
they didn't. So they didn't say it initially, but Cadena Cope copy and pasted a statement they got from PSG saying that he is leaving. We just haven't figured out the departure terms yet.
I don't think that that can be real.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Arancha tweeted it. Arancha is literally.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Arancha tweet too.
Arancha tweeted it, then it is like, then it's believable. I didn't.
You guys now are just on the bandwagon now that Arancha is infallible. She's the best. I trust her the most.
But also she's really nice based on the times you've had her on the podcast.
She's a sweetheart. Yeah, she's a sweetheart. Yeah. A left back situation.
By the way,
I was sorry, Mehedi.
I will forget this if I don't say it now. Is Sid Lowe on your list for guests on the podcast?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
It actually would be great for churros too, just between the two of you.
I have a good relationship with Sid. I don't want to ruin that by throwing Diego in there.
No, the churros could be late if Paco Alvarez is on churros.
I have a good relationship with Eduardo. I don't want to ruin it by throwing Diego in there.
But please have Eduardo back on the podcast. I love Eduardo.
I know. Yeah. He wants to come. It's just he's in Brazil, so it's hard to figure out time zones sometimes because he works and then he has a son and he's tired and yeah.
So I was asking about the left back situation, how Mendy and Nacho just don't click, and that Fran has actually been quite good. And for the rest of the season, Carlos not going to trust Fran, unfortunately, though he's probably going to have to play him since Mendy is suspended against Rayo. But what would you do for the rest of the season? Would you just rely on Mendy, or would you play Camavinga there, or would you start playing Fran? And also you said he's raw, and I mentioned that you cannot really stop being raw if you never play. And he's 24, he's not young.
Well, you know what I would do? I think on paper I would put Camavinga at left back. Because I think he's the best of both worlds in terms of defending and attacking. Although like my preferred option, like when Cruz retires, is to put Camavinga left center mid. But this is the best way to fit all of them in right now. What I would do, I don't know, like I love Fran Garcia. The rawness is that does that even just become worse defensively if it's Fran and Nacho? You know, and that would be my concern. What I would do is put Camavinga.
I think we have an even better solution this season going forward. Like
Sobhani and Rudy as center back.
Yes, that's what I was getting at. So you finally have a way where you can actually fit Tchouaméni, Camavinga, all of them in favorable positions. Obviously, Tchouaméni is not a center back, but right now, I think how
Carlos, not yet.
Yeah, not yet. How Carlo thinks is like, how can you like fit the most quality into the team? That's been one of his approaches. So if you have Carvajal, Tchouaméni, Rudiger, and Mendy at left back, then you can still play Camavinga in midfield, like we saw against Girona. So that team is, I think, on paper until Militao comes back, gives us the best chance in all corners of the side. But against Rayo, you obviously have to go with Fran no matter what. And I don't think we'll put Camavinga at left back against Rayo. It's going to be Fran.
Yeah.
If I say one very quick thing and I'm done. Someone asked about how the depth chart is going to be a problem. There was a US president, Calvin Coolidge, 100 years ago, who said, if 10 problems are rolling to you, if you just wait, 9 of them are going to end up in a ditch before they reach you. And our depth problem, I think we're a bit overthinking it. Time will give us a lot of answers. Not every single young player we have is going to maintain a superstar level. Some of them because of injury, because of maybe they are just not going to work very hard for whatever reason. Some of these young players are going to actually show that they are not going to be long-term material for us.
And the last depth was really a problem for us. We won 5 trophies in a season. So if any Real Madrid manager thinks too much depth is a problem, go watch the 16-17 season and you might end up winning 5 trophies a season.
Yeah, but then we sold quite a few of them. And I think this is what's going to happen. But next season, I hope that he rotates like 26 and 17 season.
To the point that maintaining superstar status, that season is kind of like the textbook to me, how you can manage the workload at the second half of the season. And it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys.